branding. So in the last class, we talked about the product mix. And so we focused on the elements that have to do with what is a product, what are the different types of products, what are the different levels of discussion when you talk about a product, such as the core, the actual, and the augmented. And then we went to discuss the fact that a product has a label, a product has attributes, a product has qualities, and so forth. And today I want to finish the product mix with the last element of the product, which is the brand. So when you talk about the brand, and I did discuss that last time, but I want to just connect back to this, is you have to really discuss the elements of what are the assets of the brand. It's called the equity. So the equity is broken down into multiple parts, with the lowest part being the brand awareness and the highest part being the brand loyalty. So this is where I left it last time. And I define the brand loyalty as a very important element because it helps in pre-selling. It helps. So what I mean by pre-selling is when you have a new product that you're introducing, because you have brand loyalty, you know that there's a certain number of people that would be buying the product because they've been buying it before and they trust the brand, they have a relationship with the brand, they like the brand, they may recommend the brand, and now they want to buy every time there's something new coming from this brand. At least if they don't buy, they want to learn about it before they buy. And so they have this familiarity to a certain level that helps the success of future new products. It also builds success because the channel of distribution will realize that the brand that people like are the brand that they want to also take a chance on by carrying those brands, even though they have new products that they don't know if they're going to sell. So that gives some confidence to the channel. And so one thing that is very difficult, and we see this with Lottie, is you may be a great singer and even have wonderful songs. If nobody knows about you, it's not going to work. And one way to be known is to have the distributors, the record label support you. And they only do this when there's a certain number of people that follow you. So it's sort of the chicken and the egg. It's like a lot of people say, oh, they want us to be young and with a lot of experience. But if you're young, you don't have a lot of experience. So it's a catch-22. It cannot happen. And it's the same thing, is they want you to be a new brand, but at the same time, have everybody know you. But that's also sort of impossible to have this combination. So you constantly have to innovate and create new products. When you create a brand, you have to think about what's going to be the brand. Is it going to be the name of the manufacturer? Is it going to be the name of a specific model? Is it going to be a combination between the name of the manufacturer and a specific model? The issue with this is that branding has to do with repetition. And so you want to repeat this brand as many times as possible, because with repetition, people become more confident about the brand. And so if you keep changing the brand name by creating new models, you add some specificity to the brand based on the model, but at the same time, you have to have multiple brands that you have to manage. So managing multiple brands is important, and it's oftentimes a good idea. Having multiple brands allow you, for example, to generate a branding strategy, which is called flankers. So there are strategies which are the corporate strategies, the high-level strategies, like market penetration, new product development, diversification, market development, and so forth. And then you have sub-strategies. There are the strategies at the P level. So you have product portfolio strategies, where you have downward stretch, upward stretch, but you also have branding strategies, such as flankers. So flankers, again, is what you do is you try to have as many brands as possible in order to increase the number of brands and therefore reduce the number of competitors that will want to enter this market, but at the same time capture a larger market share. In the terms of distribution, what it does is oftentimes it takes more, let's say, more shelf space. So if you have more shelf space, you make it more difficult for a new brand to come. And if they come, they will get a very small space on the shelf because it's a new brand. And you have one manufacturer that creates so many brands that you get so much space off the shelf. All of these brands are different, but it's the same manufacturer behind it. So you're sort of blocking the way for everyone else. Then you have the brand strategy of having cash cows. So that would be brands which are old brands, brands that are not very specific, but everybody likes, and they are like sure brands. And then you have low entry brands, which would be the strategy of having cheaper brands, no frill brands, because you know there's people that are trying to buy the cheapest one, and there's people that think everything is the same and the price is only element of discrimination, and therefore they would do this. And that allows you to increase your sales, and maybe you don't have a large profit from these, but it increases your sales, it increases your relationship with the distributors, and therefore you have more brands, more volumes from the distributors, and therefore you have more also distribution leverage. Then you have the high prestige brand. So that one comes from the fact that there's more and more people trying to buy more prestigious brands. So it's called premiumization of the market. So that's pretty much in every product category. People are looking for more fancy things. They're looking for more fancy things because they believe if it's more fancy, it's better quality. And also because they want to be seen with the best things. And because in general, the society are just thinking that if it's more luxurious, it means that you have been more successful, and therefore it's some social class perceived power or things like this that people would want to get more higher brand. So as a manufacturer, you try to have multiple brands in order to cover all those different situations, but you have also 5 brand strategies, which is a little bit like the market penetration, new product development, and all this, where you have an existing product category with an existing brand name. So if you're creating a new product, but then you want to give it the same name, that would be called line extension. Same brand name with the same product category. So it's like you're creating a new flavor for yogurt. You still call it Danone yogurt, but now you're changing the product category. So you are Barbie and making electronics products. You could say Barbies are dolls, they're not electronic products, so we don't want to use the Barbie. But if you use the Barbie, that would be called a brand extension, where the brand is starting to do different categories and still keeping the name Barbie. Then, if you are changing and you have multiple brands, but in the same product category, you're sort of doing the flanking and you're doing the multi-brands. So flanking and multi-brands, even though the definition seems to be the same, there's a different purpose. Flanking is really you doing this in order to make it difficult for your competitors or for any competitors. So the more brands, the more it is difficult for the competitors, versus multi-brands is you have multiple brands because you're trying to satisfy different type of customers. They both happening the same way, which is more brands plus more brands plus more brands, but for different goals. One is to reduce competition in terms of distribution channels that you have control, versus the other one is to please different needs of the different group of customers, because there is value in having a differentiated targeting strategy. A new brands is when you would have a new product category and a new brand, and you would do this because you would want to not look like you are one brand that does it all. So Philips is like this. Is you can buy a Philips shaver and a Philips TV and a Philips bulb, and there's so many different Philips products. A little bit like Apple. So Apple has an amazing reputation, and therefore they are harvesting this reputation across the different categories. But at the same time, there's the risk that people perceive that if you make mistakes in one category, it has an overflow. It has its staining effect to the brand from the original category. So that could be a reason why you would want to have multiple brands or having the same brands. And then co-branding is when you have multiple brands bound together. So you're buying Dell with Intel inside, or as it is done in the music industry, is you featuring one artist featuring another artist, and therefore that would be another example of co-branding. Any question about these branding sub-strategies and explanation over brand equity and so forth? So now I will move on to one of the strategy, the new product development strategy, which is again one of the generic strategies. So you have market penetration, market development, diversification, and new product development. So new product development is one strategy independent on itself, because it's one that is the most common when you talk about marketing, which is to create a new product. And that's, I was telling you that one of the bias of marketers is to want to create new products. And that's also the bias of entrepreneurs. You're entrepreneurs, your job is to make something new and better. And so making new things on better is good because it keeps you competitive. But at the same time, there's a question of the speed that you make new things and better. If you do it too fast, what's the problem of doing too many innovation too fast?
Not enough focus.
What do you mean not enough focus?
You doing too many things at one time, and you can't really concentrate, or people can't really focus on what you have because you have so many things.
So yes, that is very true. So it's almost like someone that says, oh, I want 10 kids, and I want the first kid to become by itself, and then I want 3 sets of triplets. I mean, you're going to have a hard time taking care of all of these kids. The more kids you have, the less time you have for each kid, right? And it's a little bit the same as if you are someone that keeps creating new products, and suddenly you can't divide your time so many brands at once. And therefore, maybe you can if you have huge amount of resources, but you can't do it all. So there's this problem. The other problem is you have to have the resources, because each one of these is going to cost a lot of money. And to do it right is you're going to need a lot of money for each one of them. And people may have sort of miscalculated the true expense of launching a new product. And therefore they get over themselves and they fail. So launching a new product is good, but also the problem is when you launch a new product, you cannibalize the product that you already have. It would be like a singer that launch songs, and the minute launch one song, a week after they launch another amazing song, and a week after, so they don't have time to fully harvest what they have launched. With music, it's different because each one of these songs would be a different product. But imagine if Apple was launching 2 versions of Apple phone in 1 year. It would be very obvious that the second version, the one that they launch right after, will be cannibalizing some sales of the version that they had before. So the big question is, how long is too long, and how is it too short as well, that you haven't had given the chance to fully harvest the profit of the product that you've launched.
Unless for Beyonce, she just released 2 songs and they were both great.
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Unless, in the music industry I mean, you're doing an album and you have several songs at once, and so you have to. So the music is different because you could have several at the same time, but there will still be cannibalization, where you'll have to sort of pace the launch, because eventually also there may be a situation where people hear from you too often as well. It would be like an actor that would be doing too many movies in 1 year, and so at one time they would become too popular. They can be this problem of being too popular, and people start thinking that's not special anymore, and then the artistry may be sort of perceived to be not so good, because then there's a loss of exclusivity. I think when it comes to art, being universal can go against you, because then people start losing the true artistry and excellence of the person. So obviously, it's a number game, and every artist is different, and how many you can launch within a certain time period before it starts making yourself too obvious, too available, and cannibalizing your own product. This lady is called Sarah Blakely. You may have heard of her. That was about 10 years ago. She won Best Entrepreneur in America. And so she started with nothing, absolutely nothing. And she had this great idea of creating this product called Spandex. When she created this product, the opportunity was herself. She created the product for her own consumption, because she felt that she could be looking better or different, and in the society or her perception, whatever she wanted different was better. And so she started to wear these clothes to sort of change her silhouette. And then as she did this, she realized that this was not just something that she wanted, and there was an opportunity out there that was much bigger than herself. So she obviously got some really amazing success at the very beginning because she got a big order from Neiman Marcus. And so Neiman Marcus is a very high-end retailer. And so she sold quite a large number of products because Neiman Marcus is a big company in America, so it was not a small order, pretty big order. But if you Google, you will see that she was extremely small and she could not actually produce as much as Neiman Marcus wanted, but she was able to wing it. And she became successful with this product Spandex, and that big company became huge, over several multi-billion-dollar in a very short time.
Professor, is that
yes,
the interview that you linked, that you put in the modules?
yes,
Okay, I watched that. Okay, yeah.
yes, that's her. So I
Okay.
recommend that you listen to, I don't have too many podcasts, but that's one of the podcasts. And you see, she explains her story and how she didn't even know how to sew.
Yeah, it was a good interview.
She didn't even know how to sew, and so she worked on an opportunity with just herself, sewing for herself, not knowing how to sew. And and 6 months after that, she made her first $1 billion selling it to with the support of Oprah Winfrey, I think at very soon after Neiman Marcus. So we see, you get this kind of support. This is a little bit of a Cinderella story. It doesn't happen all the time like this. But what's very important is that not only, and so this is important for you because it's marketing, but it's also extremely important for the next class because it's entrepreneurship. If you see the opportunity on the only recipient of this opportunity won't work. But if this opportunity is representative of a large market and you are one of the first to do it and you're going to do it right, you will become very successful. So she expanded with spandex in many different areas of the body beside the rear. That's how she started. And then she did the breast and she did all kinds of the different area. And then eventually she even went for a Spanx, men's Spanx, for to be used by men. And so she expanded, she understood the concept of opportunity, and she just definitely milked this. So it's very important to be the first one, obviously, because when you're the first one, you get to choose the target. You say who's going to be buying your product. You also become the brand name that is associated with the category. You also get the distributors to carry your product the first. And so you get the best distributors, you get the fastest distribution, and then everybody has to fight maybe with a better product, and that's not very easy because you've already made the money and then you're going to invest to make it even better. So they come at the second stage. It's harder because they're going to have to advertise more, so they're going to have to spend more money and therefore make a small profit. So it goes into your favor. But obviously the big problem is that you have to do something that nobody else did before. So you're going to have to get people to believe in you. You're going to have to get people to hear what you are doing and start wanting to consume your products. So to succeed when you launch this product is you need to have an advantage, and this advantage cannot be trivial. You're going to have to be able to actually explain what is the advantage and show the advantage, the difference between without and with. So it's like this car is driving with an ABS brake. This is the same car without the ABS brake. Let's see at 60 miles per hour, if they both brake, what happened to one car compared to the other. So you can show one different attributes and the difference between these one attributes, then you can show that there's a difference and therefore you can justify the ABS brake and that option that people will want to buy in order to save. But if it's trivial, then it won't work. The divisibility is whenever you talk about the innovation, you have to show the elements that are newer and you have to be able to extract them from the product and extract what they accomplish, the outcome of those innovations. And then, some are easier to communicate and some are harder to communicate. The easier it is to communicate about the innovation, the more likely that you will be successful. Some are more concrete and some are more abstract. Before the class started this afternoon, I was able to respond to a group. And to this group, I was telling them about the concept of diffusion of innovation. I believe it was group 4. And I was talking about the fact that there's different adopter categories. And I told them you should Google this. And so here I'm going to talk about it just for a few seconds. The idea that people adopt product in different cycles. And there is the first group, the innovator, the early adopters, early majority. So when you launch a new product, you don't try to have the core targets to buy the product. So you focus on a very small target at the beginning, which oftentimes are called the influencers, but the influencers and the innovators are different because the influencers are very much the people that are going to be talking. They may not even buy the product. They may be just someone who's voicing their opinion about a product for other people to hear about it. It's almost like a journalist. Versus the innovators is different. It's someone that really care for what's different and what's better. And they can be an influencer innovator. They hear about the product. They see the differences. They don't want to buy what everybody else buys. They want to be different. And that's why I was saying, if you're a singer that has too many songs at once and all people hear is about you, they may get fed up. And the first group that will be fed up are the people that are innovators. They are people that listen to music, know the industry very well, and eventually they're looking for something different. They get bored easily and faster than anyone else. And then they build the next group, the next celebrity that everyone will be either listening in 6 months or in a year, depending on 2 years, depending on of what is the group. But it's very important to understand that you need to get the innovators, but the most important group in this is not the innovators, is the early adopters. So the second group actually is the most important because the innovators, if you want, it's like a spark. So you need a spark to start a fire, but the most important is the thing that's going to have the fire started. If all you have is sparks, you won't get a fire with just having sparks. So you need the spark, you need the fire because you need some weight that put things into the balance. And this 13.5, and this is a ballpark number. It's not always 13.5, the early adopters. It depends on the year, the product, all these different things. But it's let's say 4 or 5 times bigger than the innovators. And that creates a movement. A movement is created not by the innovators, not by the people that start the movement. It's created by the first people that join the movement. They are the one that have the biggest impact. So when you have a product, what you try to do is to try to have a balance of product, and you can't expect all your product to be successful. There will be some successful, some not so successful, some successful and lasting a long time, and some not so lasting a long time. So that's called the product life cycle. So the idea is that every product goes from a birth to a maturity to a death. And so this product life cycle, the idea is you want to grow your business. So you need to, if you have too many products, you won't succeed for the reason that we are just discussing before. But if you have too few, therefore you're not going to get enough resources, enough revenues, enough profits in order to sustain the growth of your product. So in my business, for example, my distribution channels are constantly asking me, do you have any new products? And because it's the beginning of the year, there's a lot of trade shows. And the last time someone asked me this was in Germany, just before the class started. I got an email from my German distributor that says, do you have any new products? Because I'm doing in April a trade show and I want to feature your new product. So even though I'm a marketing person, I like to create new products, but sometimes it's annoying that there's always a need for a new product because it's expensive and it creates new packaging, new designs, many different things. And you have to invest this before you start making any money. So what's the product life cycle? It's the market introduction, the growth, the maturity, and the decline. So it's pretty much 4 stages. There is one stage before the market introduction, which is the product development. So it's product development, market introduction, growth, maturity, and decline. So there's different shape of this, but the idea is introduction is to get people to try the product, to know that it exists. The growth is to maximize the market share and grow the profit. Versus the maturity is you maximize the profit and you define your market share. It's very different in the sense that at the beginning, when you're by yourself, you don't make a lot of money, but you make a high profit per product that you sell, usually. And then when you have more competitors, you have to reduce your prices, but you are selling many more products, so your revenue goes up, but your profit margin per product goes down, but your profit overall should gonna go up. And then in the decline, you decide what you keep and what you don't keep, and that's what's very important. Now, the product development, and that's why we're talking about this separately, has 8 different stages. The first stage is to come up with a new idea and then select the best ID. So ID generation is like you with your opportunities. And I was telling you at the beginning, you don't worry about the quality of your opportunities, worry about the number. The more opportunities, the more IDs, the better. The second one is to select the best one. The third is to create some kind of scenario simulation to see which product would be the best. Then you come up with a strategy, which is where do we going to sell it for? Who's going to be buying it? Who are the consumers? How much we're going to sell it, and so forth. Then you do the business analysis to see if you can actually make money for the price that you want to sell it, for the competitors that you have, for the size of the market. Then you develop the product, then you test it. So you test it maybe in one city, one store, one day, one lab experimentation, if you have to. These are all different methods. And then you launch the product. And these are the 8 stages of new product development. So that's why I discussed it today, is it's more complicated than market development, which consists in going after a different group of customers. So it's looking at the different persona, versus market penetration. It's selling more of the same product. So it's reducing the price, increasing the distribution, advertising more, and so forth. Much easier. Product development is the most complicated one, but it's also very, very common. And if you work in the music industry, I mean, that's what you have to do all the time, because it's all about creation and creating and coming up with something different and better.